Hey guys, Christoph the Polish Geek and welcome to another video. And with Mortal Kombat 2 out, I decided it's time to rank all live-action Mortal Kombat movies from the worst to the best. For the video games, it's gonna be nearly impossible to ever rank them, at least for now, because there are just so many of them that it's just hard to rank all of them in every detail. But most importantly, I actually haven't played all the Mortal Kombat games. Like hell, I'm not gonna argue, I possibly haven't even played most of them actually. I only played like the original SNES games and Mortal Kombat 9 and Mortal Kombat X, and it didn't get far in Mortal Kombat 11, like turned it off pretty quickly, it was so cringy, but whatever. I haven't played most Mortal Kombat games, and as I've already been saying, Mortal Kombat games are not really among my favorites. They're not like my go-to video games. I do like them, with my favorite being Mortal Kombat X, but again, they're not like my go-to video games. And also I do like old Mortal Kombat games on SNES, even though I like rage quit pretty quickly because I can't even get far on a second enemy. It's like I get killed almost immediately. It's just so difficult, like, oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I mean, I do like the way the games look, like I do like the character designs, and I do like this, basically, again, live action sprites basically pasted into this video game setting. Yeah, this is really cool, I love that, but again, the old Mortal Kombat games are just so ridiculously difficult that I generally don't get far. It's like I get immediately killed by my second opponent in the tournament, and then I just rage quit and don't play anymore. Yep, but whatever, we started going on a tangent. Let's now start ranking all the live-action Mortal Kombat movies from the worst to the best. And I want you to keep in mind that none of those movies is a particularly great movie. Like, they all are suffering from the video games movie curse. I mean, movies based on video games curse, but doesn't change the fact that some are certainly better than others, because they range from downright unwatchable to entertaining, even if still not particularly great or even particularly good anyway. So let's rank all live-action Mortal Kombat movies from the worst to the best. And coming in number 4, and easily the worst one, and still rightfully considered like one of the worst movies in existence, and that's Mortal Kombat Annihilation. And I do remember that even when I was in my early teens, like 13 years old, that's when I watched the original Mortal Kombat and then Mortal Kombat Annihilation on TV and recorded them both on VHS. And I remember that then I was kind of entertained back then. I mean, I was a 13-year-old kid who didn't really know much about quality and all, but even then I was already kind of feeling it was like went downhill in quality compared to its predecessor, especially that even then I felt like the fights were a lot worse and kind of repetitive. Even if there were more of them, they were just like so badly done, and I was already saw that the replacement of actors, like the only actor that returned was the guy who played Liu Kang. Don't even remember his name, but he was the only one that returned, and that was really showing and feeling this. And even the scene where Liu Kang and Shao Kahn transform into a dragon, the Hydra, like, oh my gosh, the CGI is just so cringy and downright unwatchable. Even as a 13-year-old kid who barely ever witnessed actually the difference between good CGI and bad CGI, I could really tell how trashy it all looked. And also the bigger problem is that it just introduces way too many characters, but then does almost nothing with them. Actually, not almost, absolutely nothing with them. Like, it introduces Rain, for example, only to have just like Shao Kahn completely kill him off, and then Scorpion shows up at one moment, even though he did already show up in its predecessor, so it's not like there was a huge need of him other than just to stuff in another character. And then there is Shiva, who gets just crushed by a cage and all that, and like, yep, that's the problem. The movie introduced basically so many characters and then does nothing with them, and the dialogue is horrifying, and again, the CGI is most cringy. In fact, there are rumors apparently that the movie was that they basically just released like an unfinished rough draft of the movie, and it shows, but even that's completely inexcusable because there's just no justification. There are plenty of rough drafts that are still much better than this trash. Oh my gosh, Mortal Kombat Annihilation is so horrible. It's like one of those movies that as a 13-year-old you do kinda get excited, the fight scenes and all, even you do already feel that something is off, like I already did feel then, but now as an adult it's just straight up completely unwatchable. So yes, Mortal Kombat Annihilation at number 4. The worst Mortal Kombat live action movie in existence and just one of the worst movies ever made. Coming in number 3, and that's Mortal Kombat 2021. And I have to say, I was actually way more forgiving of this movie than most people were back when it came out in 2021, and that was actually still before the creation of my channel actually, but I remember lots of people were hating on it straight up. I thought that it did have some good merits actually, and the prime example is Sub-Zero actually, because that might be actually my bias, but Sub-Zero is my favorite character in the entire Mortal Kombat franchise. I love how he freezes people and the badass way he looks and all that, and I thought that this movie actually done him justice. Like, he was the best character in the entire movie, and that's possibly what actually saved the movie for me and why I still consider it entertaining. But ultimately, the more I think about it, even Sub-Zero, my favorite character, being done justice, just can't save the overall movie. And the biggest problem is the new main character, Cole Young. The introduction of Cole Young just completely detracts you from being able to watch the movie, because like, who gives a shit about Cole Young? Like, oh my gosh, this is entirely new character that doesn't exist in the games, and when there's so many interesting, fascinating characters from the games, it just by introducing an entirely new character being thrown in the middle of it, it almost feels like they basically just wanted like us to probably be Cole Young, who knows, like basically imagine yourself being in a Mortal Kombat world and then meeting all those characters, but like, just why? That's not what fans or anybody wants. We want a Mortal Kombat movie. We don't want a random character that nobody cares about just being surrounded by a bunch of Mortal Kombat characters. Like, that completely takes you out of the experience. I mean, like, you might just as well then make a movie about a random guy accidentally entering a portal and being transported into a Mortal Kombat world and surrounded by the characters, and that would actually make more sense, because at least this way you could justify why did they introduce an entirely new character and made him a main character instead of just like randomly introducing a main character that nobody cares about and then just like focus mostly on him. And in general, most characters aren't really done justice. It just feels like they're basically side supporting characters for Cole Young, honestly, all the other Mortal Kombat characters. So overall, like, 2021 Mortal Kombat isn't particularly good or rewatchable anyway, but I guess it's still much better than Mortal Kombat Annihilation. But then again, that's not really a high bar to clear. But coming in number 2 is the most recent Mortal Kombat movie, Mortal Kombat 2. And like, it's still not a particularly good movie, and the biggest problem is that this is a perfect example of a movie where the trailers are much better than the actual movie, because the trailers seem like the creators learned from their mistake and listened to the feedback of the fans, and this is only partially true. Yes, the Cole Young character was thankfully very much sidelined and doesn't do much in this movie actually, which is good job for that, and the fight scenes are certainly much better than they were in the previous movies. Like, the fight scenes are probably here at their best actually, and the fatalities are really great straight up from the video games, and Shao Kahn is really incredible and amazing in contrast to how he was in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, where he looked so lame, but here he looks really amazing and badass. So, and Johnny Cage is really great, like, he's by far the best character, and I love how he pokes fun at the modern trends. He's basically this like 80s, 90s hero that pokes fun at the modern trends, and all of that is really hilarious and funny. So, yeah, there's lots of things to actually love here. So, why I still don't think it's a particularly good movie? Well, the biggest issue is it's just a huge mess, and this movie doesn't know to which character it wants to fully commit to. Like, main character is technically Kitana, and even by the end, she's the one that defeats Shao Kahn, but that's the thing. She doesn't almost do much through most of the movie. She's mostly just there as Shao Kahn's servant and pledging service to him, and then snaps out of it and is the one to defeat him at the end. Like, I honestly felt like Johnny Cage was really the main character from the movie, and I was very much expecting the battle between Johnny Cage and Shao Kahn. And sure, I understand that was meant to be Kitana's fight, but because the movie almost does nothing with her throughout the whole, as a result, the fight completely doesn't feel earned. And even most of the characters are still so bland and boring and completely uninteresting. And like again, I said, the only characters I cared about are Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade, even though Sonya Blade doesn't do much throughout most of the movie either, but Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade are the only two characters I really cared about. But at the same time, when most of the cast is so bland and doesn't do much, that even the two characters you do care about can hardly save the movie. And as I said, while I do think Shao Kahn was pretty awesome, still ultimately, while the movie is certainly an improvement over its predecessor in 2021, there is still a lot, and I mean a lot, to be desired. And number one, and the best live-action Mortal Kombat movie is, it's still not particularly great movie, hell, I wouldn't even say it's very good movie either, but I guess I will call it good. Maybe not very good, just good, and that's the original Mortal Kombat from 1995. And first thing, it introduced the iconic Mortal Kombat music, and yes, even though this music is actually original to the movie, it became such an iconic Mortal Kombat theme, and it's like anytime you're hearing it, you're imagining yourself basically getting in a fight and all. Yup, that alone very much elevates it to number one, and yeah, that soundtrack is just spectacular and really amazing. I love it. But even without that iconic soundtrack, I just still think it's the most concise and coherent of all those movies. Again, the story still isn't particularly deep or compelling, but then again, this is not something fans or anybody would want in a Mortal Kombat movie. Like, people mostly want those movies for the sake of the fights and see their beloved characters from the video games, and I think that the 1995 one is the closest they really got to it. Like, the biggest problem of this movie is the PG-13 rating, and as a result, you don't have the iconic Mortal Kombat fatalities, and that's the one thing that I think makes Mortal Kombat 2 movie a better, well, it's not really a better movie, but that's the one element that's better in the Mortal Kombat 2 that came out only a few days ago actually. That's the one better element, is that there are iconic fatalities from the video games, which is one of those things that Mortal Kombat video games were always known for. So it's understandable people very much would like fatalities, and that's really the biggest problem of the 1995 Mortal Kombat. The PG-13 rating, which I just don't think fits for Mortal Kombat. But other than that, I think that this is again the most coherent and concise movie of all of those movies, and it clearly very much knows what it wants to be. It tells a story completely without any messy things and all, and the story is straightforward and very easy to follow, and the characters are themselves, and they are pretty likable and fun, and Shang Tsung is also a pretty good villain, I think, and the fight scenes are also really good and all that. And that's why I still think that the 1995 Mortal Kombat is the best live-action Mortal Kombat movie. Like, its only real flaw is that it's the PG-13 rating, and as a result, it doesn't fully commit to being Mortal Kombat that fans would want. And I don't want you to get the wrong idea, as I said. It's still not a particularly great movie. I wouldn't even call it a very good movie. After all, at the end of the day, it's still very much a paper-thin plot with just a bunch of fight scenes, but then again, I think if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, that's the type of thing you probably want in a Mortal Kombat movie anyway. But ultimately, I think that if you want a definite Mortal Kombat movie, then I think that the 1995 version is still the one that holds up the best of them all, even if our rating would really very much benefit it. But then again, those were the 90s, so what do you expect? So everybody, here is my definite ranking of all the Mortal Kombat live action movies. And again, what is your ranking of the Mortal Kombat movies? Do you agree with my ranking? Or maybe What are some of your Mortal Kombat favorite Mortal Kombat video games? Let me know, please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you later, bye!